Simplicity scales, complexity fails. Think about that one while we introduce Brittany here. And I'll tell you, I thought of those words really heavily. And that's why I can't even get words out of my mouth, because it's such a big notion. Simplicity scales, complexity fails. Brittany, I need you to introduce yourself to everyone. Tell them a little bit about what you do, why this topic matters to you, and why it should matter to them, because it's definitely impacted me. Brittany, welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Brittany Dixon. I am the CEO of Brittany Co, and I am a fractional COO for agencies and professional service companies. And really, I come in as a growth partner, right? So I'm working with business owners that openly admit they really don't like the operations stuff, and they prefer spending their time doing the strategy and the business development and growing relationships and doing the work. But in order for all of that to happen, you've got to have the operations to handle it, right? So I come in as a business minimalist, and I'm helping companies to really streamline all of those back end operations and make things so much more simple, right? Because simplicity scales and complexity fails. And what I've seen time and time again is I'll go into companies, and when you have more apps and more programs and more strategies and more tools and more team members and more, it gets really complex. And when you have all of that happening, it can be really difficult to do what you do best. So I come in and really help them to simplify and streamline everything so that they can really do what they do best, but also have the work-life balance. Because for what I have seen with business owners is that most business owners work more than a full-time job, and everyone started a business for freedom for the most part. Obviously, the money and helping people as well, but it was to have the freedom of schedule and all of these things, right? So there's a couple of stats that were pretty shocking to me, and this is why I do what I do. 90% of small business owners lose money every single year due to inefficiency, right? So that is a massive number.
Mm-hmm.
And then 80% of them are working more than 40 hours a week. And that's also a massive number. So when you combine those two things together, you're basically being overworked and underpaid as business owners. And that's where the simplicity and streamlining and operations stuff that I do, that's where that comes into play. So,
and I hate to say it, I hate to be that person, but this is when we have to realize that we have no one to blame but ourselves. Right?
yes.
When you're your own boss, it's just that harsh reality. You're your own boss, and you're overworking and getting underpaid, and it's you.
Yeah.
It's all on you. And so those
It is.
decisions, those back-end decisions that you make, whether alone or with a partner, make a huge difference in how you approach your business. I would hate to feel that, oh goodness, that's what is that?
Just the overwhelm and like just guilt around it. And like, there's a lot that comes up.
A lot of people feel like, especially when they've worked in corporate before, or people who are still at a day job, they feel that it's not spite, it's just that begrudging feeling about the thing they do, and that's oftentimes why they started their business in the first place. I would hate to have that feeling reemerge towards your passion.
Yeah.
And
And so
that
many
is when
people,
you come in.
they start because they're passionate about it and because they want to help people and because they know they're good at what they do and they can make money. But you also have to have the flip side of this and have the work-life balance, because you cannot work yourself to death, right? So just a little bit of background on me. My husband, my kids, and I actually moved into an RV about a year ago and hit the road full time. We lived in an RV, we travel in an RV, we homeschool. And that was one of those like 10-year, like when the kids are grown kind of dreams, right? And we had a couple things happen where we had a good friend of ours pass away. We had a family member get cancer, all of these life things that come up, and it just really makes you reevaluate things. And I was like, why are we waiting? And we were tied to his job. We were tied to him being local to where we were. And finally, an opportunity came up where he could be remote. My business is remote. And I was like, I think we're just going to jump in and do this. Now, I'm not saying that like you need to create this dream business for yourself to be able to go live in an RV. That's not everyone's dream. I get that. But the freedom that has given us, and also the time, like work-life balance and being able to see our kids more, all of those things are possible because of what I've done with my business and what I help other people do with their businesses, right? So it is just creating your like life by design instead of just living on default, because I think that's what a lot of people do when they get stuck in a rut, right? So I come in and help you create a better work-life balance within your business so that you can do whatever that big picture dream is for yourself.
That's right. And flowing between what you do for work and what you do for business makes a huge difference. Feeling that freedom to go heavy on one, light on the other, and vice versa, switching that around, it creates a sort of levity. No matter how hard things are in one realm or the other, it creates a levity that allows you to experience life fully. And so I'm curious then, for anybody watching right now, they think about, what is your big dream for your life? Because your business is supposed to feed your life, not the other way around.
Yes.
So when you think about that big dream for your life, whether it's RVing across the country with your family, or whether it's starting yourself a homestead, or maybe it's going to see concerts every weekend, who knows, right? Whatever that dream is, what would you say is the first step towards simplifying your business so that it does feed into that lifestyle that you want?
Yeah, so I think you really just have to assess, right? So we all get so caught up in the day-to-day and like just doing the things. We check the email and we do the client work and we just get caught up in the day-to-day. And while all of that is important, there's no way you're going to be able to step back and see that big picture without either taking some time to do it or hiring somebody to come in and force you to take the time to do it, right? So you really have to assess what's working, what's not working, what you like, what you don't like. What is that vision, right? There's so many people you ask that question, like, what do you want? And they can't really answer it. If you don't know what you want, it's going to be impossible to take the steps to get to the thing, right? So if that isn't clear and you don't know what you want and you don't know what's working, what's not working, it's going to be really difficult to put anything into place. So that first step is that assessment for sure.
And that assessment. So
yeah,
you say it's so funny. I just find this very funny because this is just the same as kind of something that I've been dissecting lately with regards to creating marketing for your business.
Yeah.
There's this idea of just show up, right? And we know that that's ridiculous because it's not a build it and they will come type of scenario. No. But conversely, this whole idea of do an assessment is kind of the same idea, right? Yep. It's the same process of where okay, that sounds fine and dandy, but how the hell do I do that? You said something interesting. If you're not going to make the time to do it yourself, you need to hire somebody to help you.
Yep.
And even that, like, that's, first of all, boom.
Yeah.
Truth bomb. Like, do the thing that you need to do because you need to do it. But secondly, that can even be a hard hurdle to get over because mindset wise, you feel like you need to be putting out all these fires because it's a fire. So you're always putting out these fires. And a kind of a perspective shift that I like to introduce people to is just this idea where, you've got to consider yourself kind of like a slingshot, right? You really, 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 really want to get over there. You want to get to that point, and that point, it's so cool. It's amazing. You've got this idea of what it is, but the slingshot is going nowhere if you do not first pull it back.
Yep.
So you need to take the opportunity, breathe deeply, allow the fire to burn on its own.
Yep.
And then step back for a moment, a day, a weekend.
And listen, the fires will always be there. The fires will always be there. And they will just continue to burn bigger if you don't go and try to put them out and put systems in place to actually take care of those things in advance, right? So I think one of the biggest things, and I've worked with companies from solopreneur all the way up to $20 million companies, and I will tell you the common thread across the board is time management. And if you cannot manage your time will manage you. Like that's just the truth, right? Like there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so many hours in the week. And it is what you do with those hours that is either going to have you constantly putting out fires or thriving and being that slingshot that goes across and makes these big things, right? That is honestly the first piece I would start with is like, look at your calendar. We're creatures of habit. If you look week over week over week, I can guarantee you're going to pick up some patterns as far as like what types of activities are on those calendars and if those things are working or not working. So time management is probably the top thing that most entrepreneurs and business owners struggle with. And if you can't manage it and like get a grasp on it, it's always going to be a problem. And that's one of the first things we tackle when I talk to people, for sure.
I was going to ask about like the order of importance. So I guess you kind of tackled the first order of importance, and that is time management. If you were to say like the top 3 things, we've got time management at the top. What would come next?
Yeah. So honestly, I think it's task management, because you think about every single call that you get on, how many action items come out of that, every single meeting you're in, all of the action items. If you don't have a really organized place to put all of those actions and make sure that they're getting completed, and you've got sticky notes and notebooks and Google Doc here and a Google Doc there and a Google Sheet here, and like, oh, I put that on my phone, you can't ever see how much work you actually have because it's in 15 different places. So task management is definitely the second thing that I tackle. And I'm like, all right, where do you keep it? How do you keep yourself organized? Like, let's take over.
Beautiful. Yes. And then I'm just going to ask for number 3, just because I like the rule
yes.
of 3. What are we looking at?
That is your CRM. And if anyone doesn't have a CRM, you need one. And if you don't have a CRM, you're leaving money on the table. So I always use CRM, and people, I want to always like lay out the terms, right? So it stands for Customer Relationship Manager. And it's just a software that keeps track of all of the people in your sphere, right? So this is networking partners, leads, clients, like past clients, basically a database where you can go and click on a person, make notes about every single thing you've ever done with them so that you don't have to keep it up in your head.
That's fair.
Yes.
That's fair, because the mental load is real. No matter what you're doing in life and business, it is real. Today is just such a fast-paced, busy, go type of space. No matter how simple you try to make it.
Oh, for sure.
It simply is.
For sure.
So these processes require a certain level of understanding of programs that could potentially help you. Do you have any recommended tools to do the job?
Yes, it's so funny that you asked this. This is typically the first question everyone asks is like, tell me which tool to go do, and I'll do it, right? What I like to tell people is it's really not the tool that's going to fix your problem. You have to sit down and figure out what you need from the tool and how you're going to use it to pick the right one. So there's a little bit of a math equation and like some science behind it, right? I do have my favorites, obviously. So from a task management standpoint, I absolutely love Asana, and I'm comfortable promoting that and talking about it because I have used it for probably 40 different industries across the board, and it's very easy to use across a lot of different places. From a CRM standpoint, from like the one that would, I think, fit the best across the board would be Pipedrive. It's very like simple, easy to use, and it can be super customized. But all of this depends on what tools and tech you already have. So again, back to that audit, I always ask like, tell me everything you're using, because if we can condense even more and have like 2 tools versus 10, I'm always going to be about that. So I have to make sure that all your tools play nicely together.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. It's kind of like when you go to the bank and you're like, okay, well, I need to pay off these loans, but I'm paying this much interest here, this much interest here. Now they say, okay, well, let's consolidate that. And then you'll only pay this minuscule amount of interest by contrast to the larger one. It's the first step that anybody should be taking, really, when they're starting their business, is not just starting their business, but when they're just revitalizing their business, when you think about it as a whole,
trying to do some revamping. One of the companies I worked with was an agency, and that was one of the first things I was like, tell me all the tech, and they started listing off like a lot of things, and I'm like, okay, first step is we're getting rid of 5 things, we're putting it into this platform, you're gonna save money. Now, is there time involved in setting it up? Absolutely. Is there time in learning the new thing? Absolutely. But in the long run, you're saving money and efficiency like crazy. So
that makes a world of difference.
The tech side of it, I have a love-hate relationship with all of these different tools and softwares. I love that they're there and it's possible, but I think people that aren't maybe naturally systems minded or minimalist minded tend to just sign up for all the things, and then it gets out of control very quickly. So the tech side of it can be a little tricky.
Well, shiny object syndrome is a thing, right? Like
Yes.
people get really excited about the next best thing. I know that that was a huge thing for me when
Yes.
I was looking for a really great tool to manage content creation, storage, and distribution, as well
Yep.
as like reminders about different things with regard to specifically content creation, storage, and
Yeah.
distribution. Oh,
Yep.
where am I going to do this? The one I wound up choosing was Airtable, and again,
Okay.
like you with Asana, I often say, hey guys, Airtable really works really well for this
Yeah.
because of the format and the layers that it allows for.
Yeah.
So it really makes a difference when you select the tool that works best for you, when you've taken the time to really assess, do an audit, a knowledgeable audit of what does this look like for me and for my future, not just for me right now, for
Yeah.
my future. Those are
Yep.
really good perspective shifts that people can take when they're looking at revitalizing their business. Now,
Yeah.
that said, you've shared with us, I can't count how many amazing gold nuggets now I've written down at least 7 of them, so here we are. But is there something that you really wanted to tell our audience today that you haven't gotten a chance to yet? Because if so, I really want to invite you to do that. Now, before you do that, I want to let everybody know that this type of gold that Brittany's sharing with us today, we have these conversations every week. So if you want to have more interesting conversations like this, you want to dive into the world of systems, minimalization, and showing up as your best self in your business, then make sure that you subscribe and follow along for the next conversation next week as well. Brittany, I'm going to give you the stage so that you can share with everybody that burning thing that you need to share with the world. Here you are.
I love it. So it all comes back to going to the basics, right? We talked about at the beginning, simplicity scales, complexity fails, but I will throw this one out here, and I love like acronyms and catchy little sayings, but
Yay.
Goals are great, but habits are what is going to make it happen, right? So we all set goals at the beginning of the year. Maybe we also set them in the middle of the year, maybe in September, whatever that looks like for you, setting your goals. But unless you have the daily habits to make the goals happen, they're not going to happen. Or days are just going to fly by. I don't know how. It's already like towards the end of the year, right? Like time just doesn't stop. And if you don't have the habits in place to actually hit those goals, it's going to be hard to do so. So goals are great, but habits make it happen.
Absolutely. And let people know where they can get in touch with you to discuss this further, because I know on my left hand how many people I should be sending to you who are spinning their wheels with systems in the back end that just aren't working.
Absolutely. So if you scan here, that'll actually take you straight to our calendar website. Or if you go to bcohq.co, you can learn a little bit more about our process. We've got some different resources available, and you can also book a call on there as well.
That makes it so much easier to be able to just hop on a call, talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about, ask the questions that are necessary for you in your business, and have some decisions made. Like that sometimes can be the hardest part, is just making the choice. And if you're having a hard time making the choice of how and when and where you're showing up in your business, then make sure that you hop over to www.shaunaleigh.com so that you can get your brand visibility vault, because that vault will tell you exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it when it comes to showing up for your business. So with that, Brittany, thank you so much for being on this show. I tell you, I needed reminders, especially goals are great. Habits make it happen. I don't know if that's a you quote, but if it's not,
it is.
I don't care. I was going to say, I'm going to attribute it to you, because that is amazing. Chef's kiss.
Yes. No, thank you so much for having me. I always love sharing these little tidbits. So,
well, this is beautiful. Everyone, join us next time and reach out to Brittany, because she's freaking amazing.